Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's great to be here this afternoon, and thank you for the kind introduction, Nina. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure it is to host you here in Toronto at one of the more exciting and interesting times in Canada's recent history. Welcoming the world to Toronto for the 2018 Fortune Global Forum is yet another big moment in a series of big, important moments for our economy and for our people. Just look at the past few months. This summer, we hosted the world's political leaders at the G7 in Charlevoix, Quebec, to talk about how best to create an economy that works for everyone. Just a few weeks ago, we made tremendous progress on trade with two of our closest partners. We reached an agreement in principle with the US and Mexico on a new, modernized trade pact, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. The USMCA will ensure continued free and fair trade across North America and create new opportunities for Canadian businesses and entrepreneurs. It's an agreement that will benefit our economy and strengthen our middle class. Today is another important moment for Canada, with business leaders and CEOs from around the globe here to talk business, investment, and innovation. Et le mois prochain, nous poursuivrons cette conversation lorsque Montréal accueillera le sommet international Fortune Most Powerful Women. J'ai hâte de participer à cet événement qui, j'en suis certain, donnera lieu à des discussions très productives. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all just a start. Every day, momentum grows as Canada takes the lead on the world stage and drives growth here at home. So when I say that this is a big moment for the Canadian economy, here are just a few numbers to back it up. Canada's unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 40 years. 600,000 more Canadians are working today than at this time 2 years ago. And wages are growing at their fastest rate in close to a decade. Those workers are powering success across the board. Our economy is one of the best performing in the G7. Not only that, but Canada has the lowest net debt-to-GDP ratio in the G7, less than half the average of the other G7 nations. As you all know, that's the marker of a strong fiscal foundation. My friends, Canada's recent economic success is not a coincidence. It's a direct result of making smart, targeted investments in Canadian innovation and in Canadian communities. We took action to grow the economy by boosting consumer confidence, lowering taxes for the middle class, and putting more money back into the pockets of Canadians. Our next step was giving Canadians the tools they need for the jobs of the future and investing nearly $1 billion in 5 supercluster regions that will serve as global innovation hubs. We're also making historic investments in fundamental science to support innovation, introducing a regulatory reform agenda, lowering taxes for small businesses, and offering greater support for women in the workforce. Et bien sûr, nous n'accomplissons pas ce travail tout seuls. Comme gouvernement, nous savons qu'en travaillant avec les chefs d'entreprise, nous pouvons transformer les défis en possibilités. Vous jouez un rôle premier dans notre plan visant à créer une croissance durable et profitable pour les familles, tout comme pour les entreprises. As we establish and implement our long-term strategic vision for Canada, we're already seeing impressive results. 2 weeks ago, I was in Vancouver to announce the single largest private sector investment in Canadian history, $40 billion to build a major liquefied natural gas project in northern BC. This is truly an international project, a joint venture between 5 companies from 5 different countries. And it comes on the heels of other recent major investments by companies like SAP, Siemens, Salesforce, Toyota, Amazon, Microsoft, and Thomson Reuters, to name just a few. The LNG project is a great example of how, all at the same time, we can attract global investment, create jobs, and fight climate change with progressive environmental policies like putting a price on pollution and introducing a world-class oceans protection plan. LNG produces half the carbon emissions of coal, and this specific project will mean 10,000 good jobs for Canadians at the height of construction. Andy Kalitz, the CEO of LNG Canada, who's with us today, will do a fantastic job on this project. On top of this historic investment, our huge progress on trade with the USMCA will support working people in every sector of the economy and ensure that Canadian businesses have access to a market of 470 million people. Between this agreement, CETA, CPTPP, and our other trade agreements, Canada now has preferred market access to 2/3 of the global economy. Indeed, we're the only G7 country with a free trade deal with every other G7 country. Nous sommes également le seul pays du G7 à avoir conclu des accords commerciaux avec tous les autres membres du G7. Cet accès unique assure la position du Canada au sein d'un réseau commercial mondial qui profite à tout le monde. Parce que ce ne sont pas seulement les Canadiens eux-mêmes qui prennent note de la prospérité qui découle du commerce progressiste et diversifié, les entreprises en prennent note aussi. Well, I'm looking forward to talking more about the Canadian advantage in my discussion with Alan, because this is Canada's moment to lead, and we're making it easy for you to lead with us. La nouvelle Banque de l'infrastructure du Canada aide les gens du secteur privé à nouer des partenariats avec le gouvernement en vue de réaliser des grands projets d'infrastructure. Notre stratégie en matière de compétences mondiales aide les entreprises à attirer les meilleurs talents du monde en permettant aux entreprises de faire venir au Canada les plus brillants et talentueux en aussi peu de temps que 2 semaines. Just in case you doubt your high school French, let me repeat that one right there. Our new global skills strategy will allow companies from around the world to bring in their top talent and set up shop in Canada in 2 weeks. Our new Invest in Canada agency is a one-stop shop for international businesses looking to invest with us. On that note, let me recognize Ian McKay, the CEO of Invest in Canada, who's just come from another Fortune event in Japan to be here with us this afternoon, and who's doing outstanding work in his role. But there's even more that creates the Canadian advantage and makes our country and our people competitive. Canada is home to one of the most highly educated and diverse workforces in the world, a workforce that's constantly innovating and knows how to elevate a company to the cutting edge. Nos systèmes bancaires et juridiques sont incroyablement stables pour les citoyens comme pour les investisseurs, et nos communautés fortes et multiculturelles sont des endroits où les gens veulent vivre, travailler et élever leur famille. Mesdames et messieurs, que vous souhaitiez chercher un endroit pour établir une nouvelle usine de fabrication, explorer différentes avenues pour faire croître votre entreprise ou choisir une nouvelle ville pour installer le siège de votre entreprise, pensez à ce que le Canada peut vous offrir. The conditions are right for Canada to cement our status as a global economic leader. This is Canada's moment. And you're all here because you're interested in being a part of it. Together, we can and will drive the progress that defines our generation here in Canada and right around the world. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for being with us.
Alan.
You talked, I really do appreciate you hosting this conference, by the way. It was an important announcement you made in Guangzhou a year ago, and I think we're all happy to be here with you today.
I want to thank Fortune for realizing that it would be a great opportunity to bring the world to Canada to see exactly what it is we're doing and how they can be part of it.
We're happy to be here. You talked about the USMCA.
New NAFTA.
It's going to take us a while. Are you calling it the new NAFTA?
No, I call it the USMCA because that's a great new name that I think makes a real difference in the quality of the accord.
I want to talk about the outcome and what it means for Canada, and then I want to talk a little bit about the process, but we'll do the outcome first.
Oh, sure. Outcome, what it basically means is we have secured access to the U.S. market, quite frankly, at a time where a lot of the investors I talked to around the world were wondering whether or not we'd be able to secure that. I mean, obviously, the U.S. is going through, as it does from time to time, a bit of a protectionist phase, and being able to ensure that investments in Canada will continue to have preferential access to the extraordinary market that is the United States is a really big and important thing.
So it eliminates uncertainty, but does it put you ahead of where you were 2 years ago?
I think eliminating uncertainty or reducing uncertainty significantly does put us ahead of where we were a few years ago. And I think on other areas, ensuring, for example, that Canadian cultural exceptions continue to be protected in a digital world, looking at improvements to the auto sector that will raise labor prices in Mexico and therefore continue to make Canada's auto industry competitive. There have been significant improvements that we've secured. Obviously, the biggest thing, though, is actually getting to a solid deal that is going to provide the stability that investors around the world who see all the advantages of Canada. I mean, I've had this conversation so many times over the past 2 years with many of you in this room who I've seen a number of times who've said, yeah, you guys are doing all the right things, but are you going to fix this NAFTA thing? And I said, yeah, we will, and we did, and we did, and we will move forward.
So can we talk about the process a little bit? Because I can't recall in the 4 decades I've been watching trade negotiations anything quite like it among allies. The President of the United States, he had some choice adjectives for you. I won't repeat them, but it was a pretty tough process. Any lasting effect of that? Or is it all just to be forgotten?
I think what people will remember is where we ended up. I think in negotiations, people have different styles in their approach. We focused on staying constructive, thoughtful, present, at the table, patient, and
you're speaking about your own position, not anyone else's, right?
I made sure that our team stayed constructive.
So the one thing that I think has become very clear in the last week is that the main goal of U.S. trade policy today is not really about Canada. It's not really about Mexico. It's not really about cars or even steel and aluminum. It's really focused on China. And there was a clause slipped into the USMCA to that effect, talking about non-market economies. It didn't say China, but we all know it was meant to mean China. What's your view of that? I mean, you have an audience full of business people who are trying to operate in the world and understand what the new rules of the global economy are. What's the lesson that you take from that?
I mean, I think, first of all, that there should be rules in the global economy. We need to, and we've convened groups to work on updating the rules around the WTO, moving forward in a way that it's not about might automatically winning, that we have rules that can be trusted to be abided by both countries and by investors, and that's an important piece of it. On the specific clause that you mentioned in the USMCA, it basically says that if we are to move forward on a free trade deal with China, we would have to advise our trading neighbors, our co-NAFTA members, on what we're doing. And that's entirely reciprocal.
Just notification.
Well, it's let them know, and as you well know, within this USMCA, as was the case with NAFTA, any country can give 6 months notice and pull out for whatever reason, whether they give a reason or not. But the idea that we would give notice is now something reciprocal. I don't think you would imagine that if the US were to move forward on a free trade deal with China, that they would instantly think of, yeah, but we better check in and keep Canada up to date on that. Well, now we've secured that we will be aware on this, which is something we would.
But tell me how you think about this issue. I don't know if Francois-Philippe Champagne
is right here.
Right there, okay. Minister of International Trade Diversification.
No, that's Jim Carr.
Oh, Jim Carr, I'm sorry. Minister of Infrastructure, I'm sorry to confuse you. I meant Jim Carr. Jim Carr, so Minister of International Trade Diversification, I think the Americans in the room know what that means. the next place to go is China.
Yeah, and we have been, over the past years, increasing our trading relationship with China, and we will continue to in thoughtful ways. Obviously, China is the world's second largest economy and growing, and will remain an important place to do business and to look for opportunities. We will continue to look for that, but we will continue to do it in the way that Canada always has, mindful about the challenges, both of scale and of different approaches to business, in a way that is thoughtful about drawing benefit and protections for Canada.
The bigger context here, of course, is not just US, Canada, China. You have rising levels of tribalism, nativism, protectionism, nationalism happening around the world. What's your advice to this group of global business people who were, learned their trade in a different, the post-World War II global system? What's your advice to them how to proceed?
Well, first of all, I've spoken with a lot of folks who exactly that are really worried about the rising protectionism all around the world. And to those people, I point out that in 3 years, Canada was able to close a free trade deal with Europe. We were able to get a good deal that we actually improved on the CPTPP. And we've moved forward on saving NAFTA, or breaking the USMCA. We did 3 major trade deals at a time where trade deals aren't very much in fashion anymore.